Namo Buddhaya. Good evening. Welcome to the Buddha Dharma TV. I am Agnes Gay. Our program, as usual, begins today also with invoking blessings for the happiness and well-being of everyone. This is the third part of the Jaya Parita, victory protection chanting, conducted by a venerable Buddhist monk.
Dukkhapattaca niddukka bhayapattaca nibbhaya sokapattaca nissoka hontu sabbe pippaninu ittavataca amhehi Sambhatang punya sampadang Sabbe deva anumodantu Sabba sampatti siddhiya Danang dadantu saddhaya Silang rakhantu sabbada bhavana bhirata huntu gacchantu devata gata sabbe buddha balapatta paccekanang ca yang balang Arhantanang ca tejena rakhang bandami sabbaso nakhatta yakha bhutanang pabaggaha nivarana Paritassanubhavena hantu te sang upadave.
Please join us for an upcoming insightful talk with the Venerable Dr. Bante Punyaji from Sri Lanka. Bante's insights are not only enlightening, but also remarkably rational, requiring your utter focus to unravel the profound depths of his Dhamma discourse. Don't miss out as he sheds light on the rare topic Happiness arises with meditation.
Before we get to wisdom, we have to talk about the happiness more. So happiness in the proper form comes from meditation, which is purifying the mind. That's the most important thing, to purify the mind. So meditation is not concentration. That's very important to understand. Because the translators have been using that word concentration to refer to samadhi, the word samadhi. That is incorrect. Samadhi is not concentration, but tranquility of mind. It is this tranquility of mind which is not disturbed. This is why the Buddha pointed out that the mind in its natural state is tranquil. It's like water. Water, if you put water in a bottle like that and just keep it, it is tranquil. Even if you put it in a glass, it will be tranquil. Only when the water is disturbed and maybe polluted due to dust or something falling into the water, that you can't see through the water. So there will be color in the water. But water in its natural state, now I won't say natural because that's also not very correct. Because in the natural state, water can never be pure. Water is always polluted. You can never find pure water in the natural state. Because so many other things come, and even rainwater is polluted in the sense that other things in the air get dissolved in that water. So that you can't really find natural water. In the same way, although the human mind is pure in its natural state, but you can never find the pure mind in the normal state. So we'll have to use the word normal and natural as two different things. And so this is why the natural state is a supernormal state. And that supernormal, that idea of supernormal is expressed in the word Arya. Now it is the word Arya that is being translated as noble, noble eightfold path, the four noble truths. That word noble there is really supernormal. The meaning of that. Because the Buddha was really trying to produce supernormal human beings. So when the human being becomes supernormal, he is not human anymore. He's gone beyond the normal human state. Because the human being, even in other religions they are saying this but in a different way. Because the normal human being is a mixture of the human and the animal. So when we say animal, we are really talking about the emotions. And the human being is also having emotions, but in addition to the emotions, the human being has this thing called intelligence or ability to think rationally. That is what is special about the human being. But that animal part is also there because the human being has the emotions. And it is these emotions that create all the crime, the wars, the terrorism, and all the evils in the world comes from the emotion. Now, it was Sigmund Freud in the West who began to realize that the emotions are giving trouble. So his system of psychology and psychotherapy was an effort to help people gain control over the emotions. Because he saw that the emotions are always coming and creating problems. So he divided the mind into three parts. This is very important to understand. He divided the mind into three parts: id, ego and superego. What he called the id, which means id, id. Id, id is a Latin form of the English it, it. The English it, it is used to refer to inanimate things. Even a machine or even computer is an it. It is not a he or a she. But when you refer to a human being, you don't say it. You say he or she. And that is the ego. And that human beings, he and she, refers to that special thing that the human beings have, which is this ability to think. And this idea was borrowed from Descartes, who was a philosopher before Sigmund Freud. So it was Descartes who said,
I think, therefore I am.
what did he say?
Cogito ergo sum.
What?
Cogito ergo sum.
Ego?
It's in Latin, Bante.
What?
It's what she's saying is the Latin version of what Descartes said. I think, therefore I am.
Cogito.
Yeah, what was that Latin form?
Cogito ergo sum.
What is the first word you said?
Cogito, I think.
Suchito?
Cogito.
Huh?
Cogito. Cogito.
Cogito, cogito.
Cogito.
Cogito, ergo,
Therefore,
yeah,
sum.
sum. That is, I think, therefore I am. But in Western philosophy, from the time of Descartes, that idea of ego never disappeared. And it came up to even the later or the modern existential philosophy. They kept this idea of ego, the self. They could never get rid of the idea of self. And even today, the psychologists, because they were following Freud and even the later Freudians, the modern psychologists who have come to meditate, Buddhist meditation, they have come across this problem because modern psychology is now talking about maintaining and preserving the ego. They talk about self-esteem. And this self-esteem is necessary for mental health, they say. And to cultivate self-esteem, they practice these exercises called self-assertiveness. To assert yourself, to get self-esteem. Because some people who feel the self-confidence is not there, so they think they must practice self-assertiveness to get self-esteem. But when they go to do meditation, the Buddhist meditation, the Buddhist meditation teachers say, you have to give up yourself. So this has become a problem for them. And this is why it is very interesting to see that the Buddha spoke about these same three things, the id, ego and the superego, in talking about personalizing. Now, even in Freudian psychology, they speak about the personality. And they talk about the personality being divided into these three parts. The id, ego and the superego. This is called the structural hypothesis. Structural hypothesis. That means dividing the mind or the personality into three structures. Structural hypothesis. A hypothesis is simply a theory in order to explain what is going on. So, these three things that the Buddha, not the Buddha, Freud spoke of in this structural way was actually functional parts. They were not structures, they were functions. You know what that means? Function is an activity, whereas a structure is an entity. So we have to distinguish between an activity and an entity. Now this is an entity. But if I shake this, that is an activity. So you know the difference between an entity and an activity. So what we call this mind are really mental processes. A process is an activity. So we cannot be talking about an entity called mind. It is an activity. Even in the history of psychology, they call it structuralism and functionalism. They had these two ways of thinking. Talking about the mind as a structure and talking about the mind as a function. Function is an activity and structure is an entity. Now today even the Buddhists talk about two things called mind and body. And they use these two terms used by the Buddha, nama and rupa. They say nama means mind and rupa means body, which is not correct. That is not what the Buddha said. But all the Buddhists who supposed to be studying Buddhism, they talk about this. Even the meditators are talking about this. And even in this so-called insight meditation, they talk about this. And in the meditation they say, you do walking meditation, so you observe how the legs move, raising the leg, stretching the leg forward and bringing the leg down. Then raise the other leg, stretch it forward and bring it down. Then you raise the right leg, stretch it forward, bring it down. Then you lift the left leg, stretch it forward, bring it down. Now, you do that as a meditation. And after doing that for a long time, the teacher says, now you have understood the body, which is called rupa. And then they are asked to observe not only that movement of the leg, but before you begin to move the leg, you have this desire to raise the leg, then the desire to stretch it forward, then the desire to put it down, then the desire to raise the other leg, the desire to stretch it forward and reside. Now when you begin to observe the desire, they say that is nama, and that is now you are observing the mind. Nama is the mind. So becoming aware of the body and becoming aware of the mind. And they say now you have got insight because you are now aware of the body. Now that kind of meditation and that kind of way of thinking itself is a wrong way of thinking, according to the Buddha. You see, this is why today all meditations are all taught in the wrong way. And so now I don't want to get into the criticizing other people's methods, but the important thing is that meditation, as the Buddha taught, is learning to calm the mind and to relax the body. Relaxing the body and calming the mind, because that is the natural state of the body, is a relaxed state of the body. And the natural state of the mind is an undisturbed, calm state of the mind. This is getting back to the normal, natural state, which is the original state. Because we as human beings, we have these senses, 5 senses. And we become aware of the world because of the 5 senses. Otherwise we don't know that there is a thing called the world. So we become aware of the world through the 5 senses. But we not only become aware of the world, we also react to the world emotionally. And that reaction begins to form what are called relationships. What is a relationship? That reaction is turned into a habit. So, a habit of reacting. You see, say, a nice person of the opposite sex, and then a reaction. And that reaction is maintained. And that maintaining the reaction is what you call falling in love. You see, you are maintaining that reaction. It becomes a habit, and you continue that same reaction. And it becomes a permanent thing. You begin to see it as permanent. My girlfriend or my boyfriend or whatever you call it, it's the same thing, it becomes a permanent thing. And you begin to think of the world as permanent. But there is nothing permanent in the world. Everything is changing every moment. When you open your eyes is like a camera. And your camera is taking pictures. But it is like a camera that is a movie camera, which is taking pictures all the time. So it's not an ordinary camera, it's a movie camera. And so many pictures are being taken, not just one picture. And that is held as a memory. So whenever you think of the past, what are you thinking about? What you call the past is this collection of memories. If you didn't have the memory, there would be no past. And when you think of the future, what are you talking about? All imagination. Future is imagination. Something that never happened. You think it's going to happen. So in the future is also just made up by your imagination. And the present, you don't know what you are talking about. What you call the present? Is it the present year that you are talking about? Or is it the present month that you are talking about? Or is it the present week that you are talking about? Or is it the present day that you are talking about? Even the present day is a collection of memories and imaginations. What else are you talking about? Or is it the present hour that you are talking about as present? Or are you referring to the present minute? Or are you referring to the present second? Because every fraction of a second, the present is becoming the past. So where is the present? So the past, present and future are just made up things. There is no reality. The only reality is change. There is only change that is going on. But these changing things, we are putting all that together and then calling it something permanent. So we think of time as something permanent. And we think of the future. We are thinking of eternity. What is eternity? All imaginary things. So we are living in a world of imagination. We are not living in the real world. There is no real world at all. And then we also imagine that I exist. What is that I that you are talking about? When we experience, seeing is an experience, hearing is an experience, and that experience is just going on. Every moment it is a new experience. And this experience is divided into two. This experience we divide into two as the objective experience and the subjective experience. The objective and the subjective. The objective experience we refer to as something outside. And the subjective experience we personalize and say, this is mine. When a desire rises, there is the desire and what you desire. What you desire is an objective experience, and the desire is a subjective experience. And the subjective experience, you say, is mine. I desire. This desire is mine. But what I desire is something outside. And when you say, this is mine, there must be an I to say this is mine. So I is automatically coming up, but you don't know where that I is. So the I becomes simply everything that you have personalized becomes the I, which is the subjective experience. It's the totality of the subjective experience. And that totality is what the Buddha called Panchakhanda, the five kinds of totality, or the five
Aggregates?
what?
Aggregates.
No, that word aggregate I don't use because that is also misleading. It is an aggregate in the sense that it's a collection. It's a collection of experiences that you put together and imagine an entity. There is no entity here. There is only an activity. And that activity comes in the form of images. Because it is a movie camera that is taking pictures, and not one picture, many pictures. So you put all those things together, it's a collection of pictures. And that you personalize and say, this is mine. That is the subjective experience that you personalize. The personalized collection there are different parts of the collection, or 5 constituents. 5 constituents of the, you want to use the word aggregate, you can use it. It's the totality, or the four constituents of the aggregate of experience, the subjective experience, which is personalized. That is what becomes yourself. So, otherwise there is no self to talk about. There is no time. And there is no space either. When we talk about space, if we were like trees and if we never walked, if we couldn't walk and if we were just stationary like trees, and if we didn't have 2 eyes, if we had only 1 eye, we won't see space. We are thinking of space only because we are moving. And if nothing was moving, there would be no time or space. It is this movement and change. And the change is what produces both time and space. Oh, there is also moving. You see, this whole image that we have formed is what we call the world. And not only the world, we have also built a self. And the self is the subjective part, and the world is the objective part. So we think we are in the world. What is it that we call in? As if there is some space inside and we are living in that space. All this is a creation of the mind or the mental process that is going on. If we didn't have this thing called thinking, there would be no world or a self. Thinking is what is going on and producing all these things. You see, what we call meditation is actually to stop this process which is called thinking and also emotional reaction. There is the thinking part and the emotional part, 2 parts, which modern psychologists call the cognitive and the affective. The cognitive is the thinking part and the affective is the emotional part. So the Buddha stopped this whole process. First, stop the emotional part. So the mind was tranquil. To bring about tranquility of mind, normal, when we speak of the tranquility of the mind, we are only stopping the emotional disturbance. When the emotional disturbance is stopped, we call it tranquility. So when we talk about the jhana, I translate that word jhana as ecstasy. What is the meaning of the word ecstasy? Stasi means standing. To stand. Stasi is to stand. Ek means outside. To stand outside. Now, if you get out of this door and stand outside, that is ecstasy. Standing outside. But we are living in a world which is produced by the cognitive process and the affective process. The affective process is the emotional part. The cognitive process is the creation of entities out of activities. It is the mind that is active, creating entities. So when I see you as an individual, I am seeing an entity that is a product of cognition. So it is that cognitive process that is producing an entity called you, which I call you, but you call I, but is the entity. But the thing is that then having seen you, maybe I react emotionally. Either I like you or I hate you. These are both emotions. So that emotional part is the affective. So normally we are not only producing entities, we are also having emotional relationships. And that relationship is also a permanent thing. We see it as something permanent. Relationship. So that we get out of that emotional world. Getting out of the emotional world is the ecstasy. Standing out of the emotional world is the ecstasy. Standing out of that emotional world is the ecstasy. So there is the first ecstasy, the second ecstasy, the third ecstasy, and the fourth ecstasy. How do I stand out of this emotional world? The first ecstasy is to be free of what are called the hindrances, 5 hindrances. The desire for sensual pleasures, the hatred or anger, the sleepiness or laziness, the worries and anxieties, and really indecision, where the mind begins to split into two and go in two different directions. That is what is called cognitive dissonance. That means we have two ideas in the mind which are in conflict. Am I to practice the 5 precepts or to act emotionally? The first precept says, don't hurt other people, don't harm other people. But I become angry and I want to hurt the other person. So, my mind is divided into 2. Am I going to practice the first precept, or am I going to kill that person or hurt that person, take revenge? Or there is something that I can pick up. Am I going to practice the second precept or take it away, which doesn't belong to me but belongs to other people? I can take it either by force, by holding a gun or threatening the person, or I can just steal it without the other person knowing it. So one is called stealing, the other is called robbery. So whether you rob or steal, you are taking other people's properties. Now there again, the emotion pulling in one direction and your reason or thinking pulling in the other direction. That is the vichikicha. Today translated as doubt. It's not doubt. It is the mind split into 2. That is the cognitive dissonance. Your mind is pulling in 2 different directions. So all the 5 precepts are really not only the 5 precepts, even the 8 precepts or 10 precepts, whatever the precept, you want to do one thing and the precept says no. So the mind split into 2. That is really the emotions want one thing and the thinking, reasoning wants another thing. So this problem is this difficulty for the thinking part to control the emotional part. That difficulty is the vichikicha. It's not doubt. Doubt is about whether it is true or false. This is not about true or false. This is about shall I or shall I not? These are two different things. So this is why this word Chetana is really the decision. The decision you make at this moment. Are you deciding to be carried away by the emotion, or are you deciding to be carried away by the thinking part or reason? So reason and emotion in conflict. So are you going to be acting according to reason or according to emotion? So if you want to succeed in life, you have to be carried away by your reason and not your emotion. Now, when you are children going to school, in the morning, you don't like to wake up and get ready to go to school. You like to sleep more and stay at home. But as you grow up, when you begin to do a job, the same problem comes up. Whether to wake up and get ready to go for the job, or whether to stay at home and send an excuse saying that you are sick and you stay at home. So you see, all that is emotion and reason. That is the Vichikicha. You see, one very important thing the Buddha discovered, that our actions are guided by the image in the mind. So, now when you are sleeping and you have to go to do the jobs, so if your mind is imagining the job that you are doing, then you are thinking, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. Then you get up and get ready to go. But if your mind is, oh, I am sleeping, I saw a nice dream, I have to see this dream further, I feel very cold, or I don't like to get out of the blanket, I want to be inside. All that is your image in the mind. So, are you going to focus on that image, or are you going to focus on the other image? So, if you see it in terms of images in the mind, you change the image. So this way, it is the image that is important. And that is what is called Samma Sankappa. The word Sankappa is being used. That is why in the Noble Eight, there you get Samma Ditti is your understanding, how you understand the problem. And having understood the problem, then you have to put your mind on the image. That is the goal you are seeking. That is why I call it the goal orientation. You think of the goal. That is why now Ananda should be thinking of the goal. I want to become a doctor. And if you think of the goal, then you'll have to go and study. If you don't think of the goal, then you like to maybe sit and play a game or some sort of thing like that. Or maybe some other thing. So the important thing is the goal orientation.
Let's take a short break to enjoy a beautiful song called Love Will See You Home, a deeply meaningful and spiritually inspiring hymn from the I Gems album.
We are all impermanent. Is it strange to really learn that the only constant truth is change? Living calm and peacefully, let the Dharma be the key to we see Nirvana's day.
The joy it shows so gently. My mind is kind. Now is the time. Now is the time.
'Cause the truth will shine through,
Faith will guide you,
and love will see you home.
truth will shine through.
Faith will guide you, and love will see you home.
Now there's nothing to do. Stay with the tune. There's nowhere to go. Stay with the flow. Equanimously. This is the joy of peace.
Rise above it all. Raise your hands, stand tall. Open up your heart. Are you part of the few who's woken up?
Your serene and joyful love in truth has given life to me. So here we are, you and I. Here we are, you and I.
I will sail across the waters to a land where love will shine, where my green grass is waiting just for me. I'll swim neath the rainbow where I'll never be alone, I am happy now that I am coming home.
Rain of Dharma, cooling down and clearing up the morning sky. Gift of Dharma is the pathway, guide the journey of my life. Gift of Dharma is the pathway, guide the journey of my life.
I'll save victims in states of dire and liberate the victimizers when I allow my heart to understand. It's the path to letting go. It's what we do, not what we know. Let us walk the eightfold way today.
Don't have to suffer to get things right.
It's letting go and kindness will meet. Be rested and be peaceful and keep peace. I open the doors of my heart for you, for you, for you, for you. No matter what happens, these words are true. My heart stays open for you. No matter what happens, these words are true. My heart stays open for you.
Now, here is Venerable Dr. Chandana from the United States, who provides an in-depth explanations of the Ratana Sutta for the benefit of Dhamma enthusiasts. This is the first part of his comprehensive talk. Please join us in welcoming Venerable Dr. Chandana from the USA.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhan saranang gacchami, Dhamman saranang gacchami, Sanghan saranang gacchami. Ratana Sutta. This is one of the suttas that we have from the very well-known book group of suttas or discourses called Sutta Nipata. It is the oldest that we have, in addition to Udana and Itivuttaka that were available at the time of Lord Buddha. We have many discourses where we see references made to the Sutta Nipata. Not by that term, but usually the one that comes to mind right now is the Parayana Vagga and the actual chapters within what came to be known as the Sutta Nipata. So this is from the second book of the Sutta Nipata and 2.1. It is made of 17 verses, and it is a very colorful setting. It has a very interesting story behind it. And over centuries, there were many commentators who added different nuances, different background stories. Some of them were not real, but they had a nice little flair about them. But essentially, it was spoken by Lord Buddha. And essentially what happens is you had the Lichavis. Lichavis were very proud people. They had a principality. They were a combination of princes. And they were known to be very much into their looks. They loved colors. They loved wearing different outfits with different colors. In fact, one time a group of them were coming in, and the bhikkhus were walking in the other direction. And Lord Buddha turns to the bhikkhus and says, look at these Lichavi princes. If you had the ability to see the Deva realms, you would see that many of their behaviors, their characteristics, their outfits actually resemble some of the Devas in their colors and their luster. Without knowing, they were actually mimicking the different realms of Devas, the Lichavi princes. Now, this is happening prior to the time where they had a very good relationship with Lord Buddha. But first, it didn't start like that. And the city that they lived in was today's Vaishali or Vesali. You see it in the suttas. Vesali became a very well-known city for the sasana, because that was also the place where, among other things, the bhikkhuni ordination took place for the first time. So it's a very significant city for the Buddhist tradition. And luckily, it is there still. And in fact, one of the pillars of Ashoka, Emperor Ashoka, is still there with a lion on top, which you don't normally see. I think it's the only one left in India. That is, the pillar is there with the lion on top, intact. Most of them are chopped, broken, etc. So what is happening is the Lichavis are having a major problem with famine, with sickness and disease, and all kinds of nasty things are taking place in their city, which normally was kept very clean, was successful, prosperous. Somehow, one thing led to another. Things were not going well at all. So they hear about Lord Buddha, and they send a special a group of individuals, ambassadors, if you will, to Lord Buddha to invite him and the bhikkhus to come and bless their city. Later commentators have mentioned how it was so bad that there were corpses in the cities, the streets. Now, we cannot validate that, but that's how we normally get the story in connection with the Ratana Sutta. Ratana, by the way, means jewel. Ratana means jewel. Tiratana, that we say the triple gem. Gem or jewel, it's the same thing. But why a jewel? Many people, we love to repeat verses, we love the chanting of the suttas, because it has a certain aura around it, a story around it, and how it has been transmuted, transferred along the centuries. If you noticed earlier, I mentioned how we are feeling beings. Feelings get triggered. And they get triggered by the feelings and experiences of other beings. Things that have happened to other beings in different eras, it doesn't matter. You tell a good story and all of a sudden you could start crying right now. It moves you. So this sutta has come to be known as a moving sutta. But not necessarily for the right reasons. What I mean by that is, as I go through the verses, I would love for you to look at the content of the sutta, not the background story of Vesali, of how Venerable Ananda was chanting and what was happening, etc., and all that. That is very tertiary, not even secondary in importance. Because there was a reason why Lord Buddha even said these verses to begin with. So, when the group of Lichavis have met with the Lord Lord Buddha immediately agrees, seeing the importance of this, and also the fact that the Lichavis were ready to receive the Dhamma. And whenever Lord Buddha had seen that someone was ready, he would not care about the distances separating. And of course, he had the psychic powers to just instantaneously show up there. But in those circumstances, I rarely have come across a place where Lord Buddha just instantaneously appeared if there was a lesson to be taught there, meaning he would walk those 750 miles. Pukkusati, King Pukkusati comes to mind, where Lord Buddha had to go all the way from Rajagaha to where Pukkusati was staying, walked there. So similarly, in this case, he walked with the other bhikkhus to get to Vesali. And already, as he was approaching, the weather pattern changed. So there were clouds in the sky, they say in the commentators, and Lord Buddha had Venerable Ananda fill his bowl with water, and one of the young princes of the Lichavis was to accompany him, and he was to sprinkle water every time he walked through the streets. And Lord Buddha, because Venerable Ananda had photographic memory, Lord Buddha gave him the verses of the Ratana Sutta, which Venerable Ananda goes and sprinkles in the streets as they are going. And what it says in the commentators' work or commentaries is that all the evil, all the negative influences that were, even the streets used to smell, they say, smell of death. It was torrential rain. It cleaned up the whole city of Vesali. I've walked through the city of Vesali, modern day Vesali. It's lovely, and people are nice as well. There's a lovely, there's a World Peace Pagoda that the Japanese Buddhist community has built. So it's lovely. And they say that Lord Buddha was there for about 2 weeks teaching the sutta to the Lichavis, and many people had become awakened. Stages of awakening, different stages, all four. And many have become monks as well. So, that is basically the background of the sutta. I don't like to go too much into the background like that, because that can deviate from the main purpose that Lord Buddha even said these words. It's like that image, the finger pointing to the moon. Many people worship the finger. They don't look at what the finger is pointing at. That is what this sutta has become, unfortunately. But because of the significance of the day, of the event, other beings showed up as well. King Sakka, king of the Devas, the Devaraja, he was there. If he was there, all the others were there, including the 4 great kings who controlled the world system that we live in. So the sutta is intended for one thing, but it became known for something else, meaning protection from evil, protection from sickness, protection from this and that. That was the tertiary, 3rd level of importance you can think of, rather than the main objective, which the words will say. But unfortunately, most of us don't even read, even though the BMV's here, Buddhist Mahavihara's chanting book, has a wonderful rendition of the sutta with English. And the English is pretty good, the translation. So you have both Pali and English for you to follow, which is great. Many other Pali or Paritta chantings don't have that. So let's start. I like to say it in Pali first and then in the English. And wherever I need to stop to address it, I will, if it needs to be, I will do so. Yani dabhutani samagatani bhummani vayani antalikhe sabbeva bhuta sumana bhavantu athopi sakkaccha sunantu bhasitam. It's good if you like to. I mean, if you like to listen to it while your eyes are closed, because they are powerful words, even if you don't understand the meaning. But I will address the English. Whatever non-human beings that are assembled here, whether terrestrial or celestial, may they all have peace of mind with contented hearts as they listen attentively to these words. So this is almost like an invitation, preparing the ground. Because aside from the human beings present, there were other beings present. And the closest devas are the ones that are closer to the ground, earth-based devas, the ones that you feel or sense around trees, in parks, in forests, in jungles, in lakes, rivers, streams, oceans, mountains. They are much closer to the earth. But starting from that, remember, those were the devas who first announced that Venerable Anya Kondanya saw the Dhamma when Lord Buddha was just teaching the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta in Sarnath. They were the first ones to recognize. They were the first ones to see and witness. And they cried out loud, joyfully. And the next stage, which was the Chatu Maharajika, the four great kings' domains, that means the devas of those realms, heavenly beings. Then you had the Nagas, and then you had the Yakhas, and then you had the Kumbhandas. They were the next who actually saw it, felt it, heard it, and it moved up to the Tavatinsa. They cried out, and then it moved up to Tushita heaven, and then eventually all the way to the Brahman realms. So the first ones to recognize are the earth devas. So from them all the way up to the celestial realms, it says, terrestrial or celestial. Tasma hi bhuta nisamitha sabbe mettan karotha manusiya pajaya devacha rattocha haranti ye baling tasma hine rakhatha appamatta. O beings, listen closely. May you all radiate loving kindness. May you all radiate loving kindness. Even in the Ratana Sutta. Auspicious or what? Loving kindness to those human beings who by day and night include you in their thoughts, dedicating to you the merits of their offerings. Therefore, watch over and protect them with diligence. You know, most devas cannot stand being close to human beings. We smell badly to them. In fact, they say that the devas would rather stay away from us by 700 miles. They avoid us. We smell bad. How can you blame them? If you were to see the kind of state they are in, the splendor, the radiance, the fragrance, the food we eat is disgusting to them. They have different types of food that are much more subtle. And the higher levels you go, it becomes even more subtle. So in the suttas, we have Lord Buddha discussing how I gave a talk on another sutta recently, the Payasi Sutta from the Digha Nikaya, a powerful sutta where Lord Buddha uses all of the arguments that even the worst and the most radical atheist would make a big deal about, Lord Buddha actually addressed it beautifully. And he gives the example of someone who was swimming in sewage, and they get to be pulled out. Strong men come and pull them out. And then they shower them again and again and again, clean them up with scrapes of bamboo to scrape off the poop, the excrement from their skin, from their ears, their eyes, their hair. They wash them again and again with different kinds of soap, fragrances, again, 7 times over, in different kinds of fragrant waters. And then they massage them, they change their hair, they clean all their hair and beard. They dress them up in beautiful outfits, put fragrances, ointments, all these things, and then they send them off to the highest penthouse that the king has and have them enjoy the 5 sense pleasures. That was an analogy, a metaphor that Lord Buddha was using for a deva. Because Prince Payasi was making the excuse that if there are devas, if my close friends have died and they were really good people, they've done nothing but kusala. So I asked them before they died, when you go and really the deva realm exists, come back and tell me. So Lord Buddha was saying, imagine someone was pulled out of the sewage and now they have cleaned up. They're all the way in that palace, enjoying more pleasure than you can possibly enjoy, you as a prince here on this land. Do you think that person would go back to the sewage? Because that's what this planet is. And even Prince Payasi says, oh no, they would not even dream of coming back. And he says, how do you expect your loved ones to come back and tell you, hey, the Deva realms do exist? Similarly, the Devas are so refined that they stay away. But here you see in these verses, Lord Buddha is encouraging the Devas. It's okay. Look at these humans. They offer fruit, they offer food, they put some water in front of the Buddha statue, even if you're by yourself. You say, I offer this to the triple gem, I offer this to all beings, to the Devas, Nagas, Yaksas, Gandharvas, all beings, including my relatives, all these people. Who first? The Devas. See, they are including you in their chant, in their thoughts, in their intentions. Like today I was mentioning about what dana is during lunch. So the Devas are getting the benefit of these merits as well from these smelly humans. So at least come down and help these beings when they are sharing so much with you. Even the very little that they have, they are sharing it. So don't be surprised when many of you actually teach devas about generosity. See, because simply because a deva is a deva doesn't mean that they are wholesome beings, that they are paramis. No. They might have just been in the right place at the right time and did the right thing once. So devas often come to Dhamma talks, but not all of them. But you can inspire the devas to approach the 700-mile distance, to come closer to you, because they see something beautiful in you. When you're doing metta, that's a Brahma Vihara. That's even higher than just a mere deva. They're moved by that. They don't see that. You don't see that in a so-called developed country these days. So you can be inspiring devas. So here Lord Buddha is inviting them to come. I think it's getting a little bit too chilly for some. If there's a way we can increase the heat in the room. I'm seeing people are getting layered up. Yes. Next. Yankinchi vittang idhava hurangva Sagge suvayang ratanang panitang. Nano samang atti tathagatena idampi buddhe ratanang panitang etena satchena suvati hotu. Whatever treasures that are found, be it in the cosmos, in different parts of the universe, in another solar system, in a Brahma realm, in a Deva realm, wherever they might be, in a Yakka realm, whatever precious jewels there may be in the heavenly realms, nothing compares to the Tathagata, the perfect ones, or perfected ones. This precious jewel is the Buddha. Now you're seeing the connection between why, or Ratana Sutta. By declaring this truth, may there be safety. Some people have translated Satchena Suvati Hotu as happiness. Even in psychotherapeutic settings, I always say to people, the most basic essential need that we have as beings is the sense of safety. If a child doesn't have the sense of safety, they will need major work later on. Their relationships will suffer tremendously. First with themselves, the relationship they have with themselves, as well as the relationships with other people. They will not know love. They will not know security. They will not have a sense of safety. It's interesting how Lord Buddha, 2,000, almost 600 years ago, is pointing that out. May there be safety, he says. Safety has everything to do with trust. Trusting each other. Can we trust each other in this room? Overseas, I have students who participate in retreats sometimes, in 10-day retreats, things like that. The other day, I heard a story from one of my students, a disturbing story, of how she had attended this 10-day silent retreat. I don't want to mention the name of it, but you kind of know it's the most prevalent one in the world today. Even though she was one of those servers who helps, who is trying to teach them how to smile in those somber-looking retreats, someone stole her purse, her money, her belongings during the retreat. There's no trust there, is there? Sometimes I hear about retreats not having the participants to practice sila. How can there be safety? Sometimes I've had people ask me, Bhante, why do you stress sila so much? Well, first of all, Lord Buddha makes it a crucial baseline. You cannot have samadhi without sila. Forget it. And that's why it fails. It will fail. All these John Kabat-Zinns, all these people in the world talking about mindfulness this, mindfulness that, it will fail every single time because they don't have the spine, the backbone of morality. Sila has to be there. But they remove sila, they make it more appealing to the masses, so they make more money. Basically, they've weaponized, they have monetized the teachings of Lord Buddha. How can there be safety when there is no sila? When you are practicing the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth precepts, especially the first one, you are telling the world that no matter what happens to me, my mental state, however angry I get, I will never, ever hit you. I will never harm you. You're saying that to your spouse. However you make me angry, I will never harm you. You're saying to your spouse, no matter what I look at, whoever I find to be very, very attractive, I will never cheat on you. Isn't that safety? How about when you are standing next to someone or a friend, and they have money there, or they forgot it, or they give you the responsibility to take care of something valuable. You're saying, I am safe. Go ahead and take care of your business. You can come back and everything's fine. I remember when I was 12 years old, I was a busboy. When I was doing jewelry, my boss had an office, so every once in a while I had to clean the office. But he was very neglectful and he would drop things. And one time he dropped a whole packet of emeralds, very expensive, precious stones, emeralds. And it was carpeted, the floor. Good luck removing those emeralds from the carpeting fibers. I got on all fours and I started picking them up. Another time he dropped money, cash. But years earlier, my father had said, when you work for someone in a business, if you find money on the ground, you pick it up and you give it back to your boss. But what if I found out that it was mine? I found it. He said, no. You give it back because your boss is teaching you something. He's trying to see, first of all, if you are trustworthy. And lo and behold, it did happen. And I took the cash and gave it to my boss. I was only 12. But we have the system in the sila that we have. That is protection. So you're protecting yourself first, because that means you're not creating any bad kamma, vipakas, and you're also protecting the world. So many people who are going and demonstrating or trying to change the world and becoming part of organizations, or we want to change the world, first settle down, change yourself, my friend. Change yourself by adopting a more protective position, which is sila. So, so the precious jewel that here we find is not the countless, enormously priceless jewels. Those are not. They are subject to anicca. The jewel of the first of the triple gem that we have, Lord Buddha, it's not the Buddha himself as the person who lived and died. No. It's the possibility, the very possibility that you and I could attain that same attainment of happiness, of freedom, of full release. That is what we are taking refuge in, not some person who lived and died. Otherwise, we're just idol worshippers, that, like some people have said. We're not. It is the possibility, the potentiality that you are confident in that you too could attain that same thing. We're not worshiping someone. Now that is a precious gem because of the truth involved in that. And no precious gem in any Deva realm or Brahma realm could ever match it, because they will all be gone. This will never change. Khayang viragang amatan panitang yadajhaga sakyamuni samahito natena dhammena samathikinchi idampi damme ratanang panitang etena satchena suvati hotu. That destruction, khayan is the destruction, of grasping the non-passionate state, raga, viraga. Viraga is dispassion. When you lose that hold that this thing had on you, you become dispassionate. As you develop in your practice, you will experience viraga. Some of the students who came and asked to learn the technique, and I show them and I teach them the Dhamma and I pass the suttas. From the very get-go, I say, be ready. Be careful what you wish for. Are you really wanting to? That's why the person really must know, be mindful of the presence of dukkha in their lives. Once they know for sure, they ask me, why, Bhante? I say, because there's dispassion coming on the horizon. If you practice well, dispassion you're going to be very closely connected to it. The things that used to be very strong for you, they will lose that impact. Now, you're not going to turn into a zombie, no. The growth that will happen in you is beyond anything measurable that you're familiar with. Similarly with nibbida, or disenchantment. That's where the Dhamma is taking us. The Dhamma doesn't promise us a Deva realm, necessarily. That is not that important. Because the Devas are there today, sooner or later, but for sure they are going to drop from that state. We don't aspire for a heavenly birth. Most people forget that. Who cares? You have been Devas many times. You don't even remember them. Why? Anicca. And many times because of the ease in lifestyle, in getting from one place to the next, just like that, enjoying so many pleasures, just like that, makes you lazy. You don't try hard. You don't try to work on yourself. You don't practice sila. Who said that all devas practice sila? Oh, they're cheating, they're harming, they are taking advantage of other things. They're simply enjoying yesterday's fare, as Lord Buddha says. So it has to be doing work involved. Many devas are, though, practicing sila, samadhi, panya as well. So here, this precious jewel is, so that destruction of craving, grasping, that non-passionate state, that deathlessness supreme, amata, that's the state of nibbana. See, even though they are trying to get rid of the quote-unquote negative influences in Vesali, look at what the verses are saying. It's talking about nibbana. He's not talking about relieving the city of Vesali from pain, of sickness only. The main sickness is the sickness of ignorance. That is what Lord Buddha is talking about. The deathless state, the amata, deathless element, the amata dhatu, is what it is talking about. And the Dhamma, so the calm and collected Sakyan sage, the Buddha, had realized this. Nothing compares to Nibbana. Yeah, okay, so what? You recover from your sickness. You're up and running, you're back in business, but sooner or later you're going to croak and die. So what was that whole show about? Every one of us will die sooner or later, okay. What or how close have we gotten to Nibbana? That is what Lord Buddha is asking here for. This precious jewel is the Dhamma. By declaring this truth, may there be safety. Yang Buddha se tho parivannai suching samadhimanantari kanya mahu samadhinatena samona vijjati idampi dhamme ratanang panitang etena satchena suvatthi hotu. The Supreme Buddha praised the pure, noble Eightfold Path, calling it the path which unfailingly establishes one in the collectedness of mind. Inescapably immediate. It doesn't get to be delayed. That samadhi he's talking about. Anantarika. It has an immediacy, a concentration that is beyond. It is not a trance, like some people think. It is a collectedness of mind that allows wisdom to take place, where the beginnings of the experiences that take us closer and closer to Nibbana take place. This is what makes it relatable. Because many people have deified Lord Buddha, have deified the Dhamma, they've objectified it. And that's what we do also with suttas like the Ratana Sutta. We have objectified it. It is like a means to an end. Oh, if there's bad luck, let's have the monk come and then chant Ratana Sutta or Mangala Sutta or something. So it's a means to an end for many people. Completely missing the boat. It's us looking at the finger, not what the finger is pointing at, which is the moon, as the saying goes. One of the worst things to do is comparing the Dhamma to something else in an erroneous manner. Over the last decades, I've seen people talk about science and Buddhism to be the same. That has some partially wishful thinking involved, because they're not the same. Because science is pretty, primitive still. It doesn't have, it knows very little. When I was doing biology, when I was teaching biology in America, every day, I think the consensus was that over 160, 180 different species of insects are found in the jungles of Brazil, in the Amazon. Over almost 200 species, new species were being discovered. And we think that we know everything in science. We don't. Because there's this desire to always equate the Dhamma with something to make it more popular. One of them is comparing it to psychology. It's not. That's why I use metaphors. I work in psychotherapy. That's one of my specialties. I've seen thousands and thousands of patients. We diagnose people. But that does not mean that we have to squeeze the Dhamma into the rudimentary, gross, measuring yardsticks that psychology has to provide, or science. So we must be careful. We take that with a grain of salt, or a bucket of salt, depending. So, nothing could be compared to the Dhamma. And that's why it must be experienced by the person to know it for oneself. That nothing can be compared. That's why it's a precious jewel. You cannot obtain that precious jewel by reading or getting a PhD on it. It can't happen. It must be experienced. When we speak of the Dhamma, what we're speaking about is essentially the Four Noble Truths. How related is it to your life? If you're having a problem with your mate, with your boss, a problem, is it fair for us to call that suffering, stress, difficulty, tightness, unpleasant? If it's a problem, it should be. Okay. How much are you dwelling on that problem? Is it with you always? When you sit down to eat food with your loved ones, do you find that trouble still with you? Is it like that thing that's stuck on you and you want to get rid of it, but you can't? Is it like that? Well, that is telling us about the intensity of the suffering that you're experiencing. Most of us are trying to push that away until we have some mindfulness and we say, okay, stop. What's going on? Oh, it's painful. That realization is the realization of the First Noble Truth. Simple? Now comes the Second Noble Truth. Why? Why? You know, why is a courageous stance. It shows the person is intelligent, is wise. To ask why. Why am I suffering? Well, everyone is suffering. No, that's not an answer. Why am I suffering? I don't know about everyone else, but why am I suffering? Well, because I want him to do this, and he's not. I want this to happen to me, but it's not. I want her to change, but she's not. I want him to change, and he's not. How badly do you want him to change? How badly do you want your boss to change? How badly do you want? See, we use the words tanha, craving, left and right, but we never put the feeling tone to it. We never put it under our skin. Craving is just a word, means nothing. But when you talk about the emotionality around it, when we make it more personal, yeah, I work all those hours, but my boss neglects to observe that, never gives me that raise. He never changes, he never thinks about me, for example. How strongly am I holding on? Do you notice that? Tightness, constriction? Is there metta here? No. No. Is there wisdom here? No, absolutely not. Is there dukkha here? Absolutely. That's why we all know dukkha, but we don't know dukkha. We just take it for granted. Yeah, it's part of life. Some people have said, oh, Buddhism, Dhamma is pessimism. No. No. Lord Buddha didn't say life is suffering. He said there is suffering in life. Huge difference. A wise person will sit down and say, okay, why? And what can we do about it? And that can we do about it is the third and the fourth noble truths. Because it teaches you to relax your grip. Okay, my boss is not mature enough to see it. Or maybe I'm with the wrong person here in this relationship. I tried everything, but they don't see that. Okay. Lord Buddha gives the example of grinding grains of sand together and hoping that sesame oil will come out. Will it come out? Grind, dust, smash them together. Good luck if any oil comes out. You can only get sesame oil if you crush sesame seeds together. Logical, right? But we go ahead and smash those grains of sands and boulders and rocks and say, okay, come on oil, come on. I've spent 35 years with this person and he or she is definitely going to, no. Meanwhile, you're struggling and you're suffering. Why? Because there's avidya. Why? Because you're not applying the Eightfold Path. You are set on the wrong path. There is michaditi. There is no sammaditi. Your view is wrong to begin with. So if I'm going this way, and I don't know which city is in this direction, let's say, maybe, is Singapore in which direction? Help me here, I don't know where the south is. Back, okay, so Singapore is in this way, but I am going in this direction, or in that direction. Okay? Well, I'm sorry, but it won't work. It won't work. It's like grinding the grains of sand together, expecting to find oil. So it requires us to get the right attitude. And that's the Magga part, which is the fourth part of the Noble Truths. These are not just terms we memorize. These are lifestyle choices. You apply these principles in your life on a daily basis. How come you don't think about it in terms of the Dhamma? That's what makes the Dhamma alive in your life, not in some book, not in some lecture or talk. It's in your life. And the choices you make in your thoughts, in your words, and in your bodily actions. Ye puggala atha satang pasattha chattari etani yugani honti te dakhineya sugatassa savaka ete sudinnani mahaphalani idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena satchena suvatti hotu. The 8, this is where we get to the crux of the Ratana Sutta. what it is really all about. Next time when you're attending a puja, or you are chanting yourself, think about these words. The 8 individuals are praised by the wise, and they constitute the 4 pairs. These are the true disciples of the Buddha and are worthy of offerings. Gifts offered to them yield abundant results. This precious jewel is the Sangha. By declaring this truth, may there be safety. Throughout the suttas, you see Lord Buddha talking about this again and again and again and again. The 8 Arya Savakas, these are not supernatural beings from a different planet. These can be you, your relatives, your loved ones, but especially you. These are not special beings somewhere else. What Lord Buddha is talking about are the 4 stages of awakening. Those who have attained the 4 stages of awakening. Sotapanna, which is stream winner or stream enterer. Someone who has entered the stream. Once returner, Sakadagami, meaning they only come back once. And depending, there's different categorization of that. Some of them come back to this world once. But some of them don't even come back to this world ever again. They could be reborn in a Deva realm. Then there's the Anagami. There's different kinds of Anagami, but essentially non-returner. They will never, ever, ever return to any realm other than a pure abode. This is where the Mahayanists later on came up and constructed their own realms or Buddha lands, things like that. Pure lands. It's not actually. They just took it from the pure abodes that you find here. It's only for the Anagamis. You can sit there and chant the Buddha's name. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to be reborn in that pure abode. You have to get rid of the 5 lower fetters, the Sangyojanas. There's 10. So the first 5 have to go. Sakkaya Ditthi, Vichikiccha, Silabbata Paramasa. The rites and rituals. Believing that the rites and rituals are going to get you anywhere, that belief drops. Because you see the futility of it. The unrealism in it. You also see through the personality view. The identification with the self. That's a Sakkaya Ditthi. And you also lose that doubt towards the Dhamma. Next time someone says something, hey, let's go and listen to Satguru over there. Or somebody else. You say, what? Yeah, but look how many millions of followers they have. You sound so interesting. You say, no. It never fools you. That's what makes a Sotapanna Sotapanna. Their faith in the Dhamma is so strong, nobody can convince you otherwise. But in addition to those 3, an Anagami is one who has completely removed the lust after raga, sense pleasures. And similarly, the hatred is left. Somebody might come and do something bad to them. They feel the jolt, but the situation is gone. And they say, something did happen. What was it? I'm supposed to be angry at someone, but I'm not. They remember, they say, yeah, but I'm supposed to get even more angry than this, but they can't. They cannot touch, they cannot hold that hatred. It's gone. Even if they wanted to, they can't. That is an Anagami. That means they have relinquished the 5 Sangyojanas. That is the level of a person who can be reborn in the pure abodes. Nobody else. Sakadagami cannot. Even a Buddha cannot be reborn in that realm because it's only for Anagamis. But they can come out of it and they can go and visit and they can go and encourage the Dhamma. Like it was the case with Brahma Sahampati, who encouraged Lord Buddha to teach the Dhamma. He was coming from the pure abodes. Because he used to be a bhikkhu who became an anagami at an earlier eon, in a different Buddha's time. So that is the third, and then you have the Arahant. So, but you had 8, right? 4 pairs. So each of these stages has 2 segments. Think of it as when you were coming up the stairs. This is an example I have from Ajahn Mahabua. He describes it beautifully. He says, Magga and Phala. Magga means the path, means that the person has entered, but it's like one foot still is in the air or still has not come up to the second stair. So you have 2 stairs. If I were to step up here, so you step 1 foot, where's the other foot? Still on the ground. But it's certain that you are going there. That's the Arahant, or any of the other stages. So the person has entered the path of that attainment, but they're not fully there yet. That becomes the Phala level, which is the fruition stage. And that's what Lord Buddha divided each of these into 2. That's how you have the 8. These are the actual Mahasangha. This is what you are taking refuge in the triple gem, in the third. When you say, I take refuge in the Sangha. I have sometimes people who come and they say, Bhante, I'm sorry, but I have an issue with, I don't have the trust towards some bhikkhus. How can I take refuge in that? And it's a legitimate question. Across the world, I've heard this question from different students. I had to struggle with this. Because you see things and you're like, wait a minute, how can I take refuge in that? I don't agree. I live better than that. It's not them that you take refuge in. Remember that. This is the Sangha Lord Buddha is saying in the Ratana Sutta. That's what makes this sutta so powerful. You're seeing now the essence, the core of the sutta. It's not just a mere sutta to chant to ward off evil spirits. But why are the evil spirits or negative energies leaving you? That's what we're looking at. The core of it. It's talking about the real Sangha. And you could be part of that. That's why we teach you the Dhamma. So you could practice the Dhamma. And you can taste the fruits yourself. In this world today, you have these individuals. These are not lost in the pages of history, you know. Yeah, I wish we were living in a time of Lord Buddha where we could experience this. No! There are people. I know them by name. Who are part of the 8. And I'm just happen to be just one person who knows about them. There's so many millions of them in the world. But they're not going to come out and declare themselves. The Dhamma does the job, don't worry. You have to have the faith in you also attaining this by practicing what? Sila, Samadhi, Panya. These are not just principles to remember, memorize. These are choices with which we live. That's why the Dhamma is a patipada. It's a training. It's a practice. Not some things that we chant. We don't believe in. We don't understand their truth. Yes, suppayutta manasa dalhena nikkamino gotama sasanam hi. Te patti patta amatang vigaiha laddha muddha nibbuting bunjamana idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena satchena suvati hotu. With a steadfast mind and applying themselves well in the dispensation of the Buddha Gautama, they are free from defilements. They have attained to that which should be attained, arahantship, as they dwell in the deathless, amata, again. Deathless, by the way, because they will never experience death again, because there's no more birth. This body, they drop the body and that's it. No more birth into any womb, into any realm. Freedom. That's why we call it release, vimutti. Bhante Punnaji used to use the term akuppa ceto vimutti a lot. Imperturbable serenity of mind, he would call it. Vimutti. Liberation, release. Releasing from death. Releasing from birth. That's real freedom. Otherwise, any other freedom, I mean, we saw what happened 2 years ago, for 2 years actually. Our freedoms were taken away. Today somebody was saying, I don't know how to connect with my friends. Children don't know how to connect. People have missed social settings. They want to be, again, social, but now they feel awkward. They feel they're doing something wrong. They're breaking the rules. No, it's okay. It's okay. So we see freedom, even physical freedom, it could be taken away. But this freedom cannot be taken away because it is attained by you, yourself. No one can take that away. Even your memories can be taken away, right? Alzheimer's comes and boom, decades of memories are gone. Let's look for the right kind of freedom. That's where safety is. Yatinda kilo pataving sitosya chatubhi vatebhi asampakampiyo tatupamang swappurisang vadami yo ariya satchani aveccha passati idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena satchena suvati hotu. As a post planted deeply into the earth stands unshaken by the winds from all four directions, so too I declare is the superior person, who sees and understands with wisdom the Four Noble Truths. That's the Arya Satchani. This precious jewel is the Sangha. By declaring this truth, may there be safety. Now, I just wanted to touch on a post that is planted deep into the earth. In old palaces, in towers, in barricaded cities and things like that, if you've ever visited an old gated palace, the gates would be pretty thick, the doors, some of them made out of bronze or some metal, but right behind, in the inner side of the palace, they would have a hole dug deep in the ground. And they would have almost like a tree trunk, a big thick post, wood. And they would slide that inside of the hole, because half of the post would be inside the ground, the other half would be above the ground. Are you imagining it? Now why? Because the gates, they might have elephants trying to break through, or horses, or bulldozing their way inside. They might crash, destroy the gates, the doors, but the post, half of it is in the solid ground. It is unmovable. You can't move it. So that is the image that I would like you to think of, and that's what they used to use. Some years ago, I went to India and I visited some of the old cities in Jaipur, and you do see some of these gates, and some of these gates actually have been destroyed. People have tried to crash their way in, armies and things. And you see some of these holes in the ground. Very interesting. This was something that was being kept at the time of Lord Buddha. So, as a post planted deeply in the earth stands unshaken by the winds from all four directions, so too I declare the superior person, the one who has understood the Four Noble Truths. That is this noble Sangha, Lord Buddha says. Again, the connection to the Ratana, the jewel.
Of Dharma, cooling down and clearing up the morning sky. They fall
of my heart. For you, for you, for you, for you. No matter what happens, these words are true. My heart stays open for you. No matter what happens, these words are true. My heart stays open for you.
That wraps up today's broadcast. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact us at info@buddhadharmatv.com. We work hard to share the noble, peaceful, and sublime teachings of the Buddha with you, and helping you pursue the spiritual path under his wisdom. Please encourage and support those interested in the rational and enlightened teachings of the Buddha. We believe our programs on Buddha Dharma TV will inspire peace lovers around the globe. Good night. Namo Buddhaya.